Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, there is a quiet shift happening in the world, something so subtle that most people don't even notice it until it is too late. Time is moving, as it always has, but the rules of wealth, the very foundation of how money is created, is changing beneath our feet. And somewhere, between fear and opportunity, between comfort and uncertainty, your future is being decided, not by chance, but by the choices you make in moments like this. I want you to pause for a second and reflect. There was a time when earning money felt simple. You studied, you worked, you waited for your paycheck, and you hoped that one day it would be enough. Enough to live, enough to breathe, enough to feel secure. But deep inside, there was always a question, a quiet discomfort, a realization that something was missing. Because no matter how hard you worked, your time was always limited. And when time is limited, so is income. Remember those early days, when the idea of financial freedom felt distant, almost unrealistic. Watching others succeed, hearing stories of people building wealth, it felt like a different world. A world reserved for the lucky, the talented, or the privileged, and maybe you have felt that too. That quiet belief that perhaps this path, this life of struggle, is all there is. But here is something I learned. Through years of trial, failure, and reflection, the world does not stay the same for long, and every once in a while, a shift happens that changes everything. Today, that shift is called AI and automation. But let me be honest with you, when I first heard about it, I was not excited. I was uncertain. There were headlines, stories, warnings, telling us that machines would replace jobs, that systems would take over, that the future would belong to technology, not people. And like many others, I felt a quiet fear. Where does that leave someone like me? I wondered. Someone who had spent years trying to understand money, to build something stable, to create a path forward, and for a moment, I considered stepping back. But something inside me refused to accept that fear. Because every major change in history has created two kinds of people, those who resist it and those who learn to use it. So I made a decision, not out of confidence, but out of curiosity, to understand it, to explore it, to see if there was even a small opportunity hidden within it. And what I discovered changed everything. You see, AI is not here to replace you. It is here to multiply you, but only if you are willing to learn. In the beginning, it was not easy. There were tools I did not understand, systems that felt overwhelming, concepts that seemed too technical. I made mistakes, many of them. I tried things that did not work, invested time into ideas that failed quietly, without any reward. There were days when it felt pointless, days when I questioned whether I was wasting my time. And this is where most people stop. They see the complexity, the uncertainty, the slow progress, and they walk away. Not because the opportunity is not real, but because it requires patience, because it requires starting without mastery. And starting is always the hardest part. I remember my first attempt, trying to use AI tools to create something of value. It was imperfect, slow, frustrating. The results were small, almost insignificant. But there was something there, something subtle, a glimpse of potential. And that was enough. Because in investing, and in life, you do not need certainty to begin. You only need enough belief to take the first step. Slowly, I began to understand something important. Making money with AI is not about the technology. It is about value. Always value. You see, tools change, platforms evolve, systems come and go, but the principle remains the same. If you can solve a problem, if you can make something easier, faster, or better for someone else, money will follow. And AI, simply, gives you the ability to do that at scale. The first path I discovered was using AI to build skills faster. Writing, designing, researching. Tasks that once took hours could now be done in minutes. Not perfectly, but efficiently. And when you combine efficiency with consistency, something powerful begins to happen. You create momentum. The second path was offering those skills, simple services, things that people needed but did not want to do themselves. And with AI as a support, not a replacement, I could deliver faster, better, more consistently. At first, the income was small, but small income is still progress, and progress builds confidence. The third path was automation, creating systems that continue to work even when you are not actively involved. A process, a workflow, something that reduces effort while maintaining output. It is not magic, it is structure. And once that structure is in place, it begins to grow quietly, steadily, without constant attention. But here is where many people go wrong. They look for shortcuts. They want instant results, quick success, easy money. And when they don't see it, they lose interest. But wealth does not work that way. Not real wealth. Real wealth is built slowly. It requires discipline, the ability to keep going, even when the excitement fades. It requires delayed gratification, choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It requires consistency, showing up again and again, even when the results are not visible. And perhaps most importantly, it requires purpose, because without purpose, it is easy to quit. I have seen people with incredible opportunities fail, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked direction. They chased trends, followed hype, jumped from one idea to another, never staying long enough to see results. And in the world of AI, this is even more dangerous because the noise is everywhere. New tools, new promises, new shortcuts appearing every day. But remember this: not everything that shines creates value, and not every opportunity is meant for you. The key is to focus, to choose a path and commit to it, to ignore the distractions and build something real, something that may not look impressive at first, but grows over time, something that may not bring immediate results, but creates lasting value. Because in the end, it is not about how fast you make money. It is about how sustainably you can keep it. And as you continue on this journey, you will face moments of doubt, moments when progress feels slow, when results seem distant, when the effort feels heavier than the reward. And in those moments, you will be tested, not by the market, but by your own mindset. You will ask yourself, is this worth it? Should I continue? Is this really the right path? And that is where your growth begins, because in that quiet question, in that moment of uncertainty, you are no longer just learning how to make money. You are learning how to think, and thinking is what separates those who chase opportunities from those who build them. You see, making money with AI and automation is not a single action. It is a way of approaching the world, a way of seeing problems, and calmly asking, how can this be improved? How can this be simplified? How can this be done better? Not just once, but repeatedly, with consistency. There is a certain stillness, that begins to develop within you. At first, you are excited by possibilities. Every tool feels powerful. Every idea feels like the one that will change everything. But slowly, as you spend more time, you begin to realize that true progress does not come from chasing everything. It comes from committing to something. And commitment is quiet. It does not seek attention. It does not demand instant results. It simply shows up every day with patience. There were days when I worked on systems, adjusting small details, refining processes, and nothing seemed to change. No sudden increase in income, no visible breakthrough, just steady effort, with no applause. And this is where most people turn back, because the human mind seeks validation. It wants to see results, to feel rewarded, to know that the effort is worth it. But the truth is, in the world of real wealth, validation is delayed. Sometimes, for a long time. And in that delay, many people lose their way. They begin to doubt the process. They abandon what they started. And they move on, searching for something easier, something faster, but in doing so, they unknowingly reset their progress, again and again, and time continues to pass. This is why emotional discipline is so important. You must learn to separate your feelings from your decisions. There will be days when you feel inspired and days when you feel nothing at all. And on those days, your emotions will try to convince you that stopping is reasonable, that taking a break is harmless, that maybe this path is not right for you. But discipline whispers something different. It reminds you that success is not built on how you feel. It is built on what you do, consistently, even when it is difficult, even when it is repetitive, even when it feels insignificant. Because over time, those small actions begin to compound. A single piece of content may not bring results, but consistent creation builds visibility. A single service may not change your income, but repeated delivery builds trust. A simple automation may not feel impactful, but over time, it reduces effort, increases efficiency, and creates space for growth. And this is where something beautiful begins to happen. You start to see patterns, you begin to understand what works, what doesn't, where to focus, where to let go. Your decisions become calmer, more thoughtful, less reactive. You no longer chase every opportunity because you understand that focus creates depth, and depth creates value. There is also a quiet sacrifice that comes with this journey. Moments when you choose growth over comfort. When you say no to distractions, to temporary pleasures, to things that feel good now, but take you away from where you want to go. These sacrifices are not visible to others. They happen in silence, and often they go unnoticed, but they matter, because every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are strengthening something within yourself, something that cannot be taken away, something that becomes your foundation. And as this foundation grows, your relationship with money begins to change. You no longer see it as something uncertain, something unpredictable, something outside your control. Instead, you begin to see it as a result, a natural outcome of value, consistency, and time. And with that understanding comes patience. You stop rushing. You stop expecting immediate results. You stop comparing your journey to others who may be at a different stage, because you realize that wealth is not a race. It is a process that unfolds at its own pace. And in the world of AI and automation, this mindset becomes even more important, because while the tools are fast, while the systems are efficient, the growth The real growth still takes time. There is no shortcut to trust, no shortcut to credibility, no shortcut to building something meaningful, and yet, many people continue to search for one. But those who understand, those who stay patient, those who remain consistent, they begin to see something others miss. They begin to see that the real power of AI is not in replacing effort. It is in amplifying it. It allows you to do more with less time, to reach more people with less limitation, to create more value with greater efficiency. But it does not replace the fundamentals. It does not replace discipline or patience or long-term thinking. It simply enhances them. And if those fundamentals are not there, the results will always be temporary. So as you continue, quietly building, learning, improving, there will come a moment, a subtle shift, where things begin to feel different, where the effort starts to align with results, where the systems you built begin to respond, where the value you created begins to return to you. Not all at once, but gradually. And in that gradual progress, you will find something far more valuable than money. You will find confidence, not the loud, external kind, but a calm, internal certainty that you are on the right path, that you are on the right path. And once that quiet certainty settles within you, everything begins to feel different. You no longer wake up with anxiety about the future because you understand that your direction is clear. You no longer feel pressured to chase every new opportunity because you have learned the power of staying focused. There is a calmness in your decisions, a patience in your actions, and a deep sense of control over your own journey. This is where clarity replaces confusion. You begin to see AI and automation not as something overwhelming, but as something practical, a tool that works for you, not against you. You understand which systems serve you and which distractions to ignore. You no longer try to do everything. You simply do what matters with consistency. And slowly, the results begin to reflect that. A system you once built with uncertainty now runs with stability. A skill you once struggled with now feels natural. An income stream that once seemed impossible now becomes part of your routine, not because of luck, but because you stayed. You stayed when it was difficult, when it was slow, when it felt like nothing was happening. And in doing so, you allowed time to do what it always does, multiply consistent effort. There is a certain peace that comes from this understanding. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You are not driven by comparison or external validation. Your focus becomes internal, grounded, steady. You measure progress, not by sudden gains, but by long-term growth. And this is where true financial maturity begins. Because now, you are not just making money. You are building a system, a structure, a way of life that can sustain itself. AI and automation become extensions of your thinking, quiet assistants that help you create, manage, and grow without constant strain. You begin to design your work in a way that supports your life rather than controls it, and in that design, you find freedom, not the kind that is loud or dramatic, but the kind that is calm, stable, and deeply fulfilling. You realize that the journey was never just about reaching a number or achieving a goal. It was about becoming someone who understands how to create value, who respects time, who embraces patience, and who moves forward with intention. And as you look back, you begin to see your past differently. The struggles were lessons, the failures were guidance, the slow progress was preparation. Everything was shaping you for this understanding. And now, standing in this quiet moment of awareness, you no longer feel uncertain about what lies ahead. Because you know that as long as you continue to think clearly, act consistently, and remain patient, growth is inevitable. So move forward, without haste, without fear, and without distraction. Because the path you are on is not built on trends or temporary opportunities. It is built on principles, and principles endure. There is a quiet truth that reveals itself only to those who are willing to stay, to observe, to learn, and to endure. And that truth is this: everything you have been searching for was never outside of you. It was being built, slowly, patiently, through every moment you chose discipline over distraction, through every step you took despite uncertainty, through every day you continued, even when the results were invisible. You see, making money with AI and automation was never just about technology. It was about awakening a new way of thinking, a way of thinking that understands that time is your greatest asset, that consistency is your greatest advantage, and that value, real value, is the foundation of all wealth. And as you reflect on this journey, from doubt to clarity, from hesitation to confidence, from confusion to understanding, you begin to realize something deeply powerful: that you are no longer the same person who started. You have grown, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and strategically. You have learned to be patient in a world that rushes, to stay focused in a world full of distractions, to think long-term in a world obsessed with instant results. And that is rare, because most people will continue to chase shortcuts, to seek quick wins, to move from one idea to another, never staying long enough to build something meaningful. But you have chosen a different path, a path of quiet consistency, of thoughtful action, of steady growth. And that path always leads somewhere powerful. There will still be challenges, moments of doubt, days when progress feels slow. But now, you see them differently. Not as obstacles, but as part of the process. As reminders that anything meaningful takes time. And time, when used wisely, becomes your greatest ally. So do not rush. Do not compare. Do not lose yourself chasing what others are doing. Instead, stay grounded, stay patient, stay committed to your path. Because the future you desire is not created in a single moment of success. It is built, day by day, through small decisions, repeated with intention, and one day, without even realizing it, you will look back and see how far you have come, how the uncertainty turned into clarity, how the effort turned into results, how the discipline turned into freedom. And in that moment, there will be no noise, no rush, no need to prove anything, only a quiet sense of peace, knowing that you stayed true to the process, knowing that you built something real, knowing that your journey was worth it. So move forward with calm confidence. Let your actions be guided by purpose, your decisions shaped by wisdom, and your progress fueled by patience. Because abundance is not something you chase. It is something you grow into.